Hi everyone, I did my theme study on bullying, anxiety, and fears. The first book I focused on was Marlene, Queen of Mean by Jane Lynch. Jane Lynch, in addition to being an author, she is an actress, as some of you may know, on the TV hit series Glee. She is also a comedian. She's an author of adult literature, as well as children's literature, such as Happy Accidents, Consent to Treatment, Clinical Responsibility, and Health Records in Court. So these are more informational texts on these topics. Lynch teamed up with a clinical psychologist to write this book, Marlene, Queen of Mean. And she wrote it to share her passion of helping the world overcome challenging issues to young readers, instead of just adults. Have You Filled a Bucket Today by Carol McLeod was another text I chose. Some of you may be familiar with this, as it is common in elementary classrooms. Carol McLeod is the author and is known for her bucket-filling books that are anti-bullying, promoting happiness, and promote students to feel good when they do things for others. She is also the author of You Fill My Bucket, Growing Up with a Bucket Full of Happiness, Bucket Filling A to Z, Buckets, Dippers, and Lids, and Baby's Bucket Book, which all follow the same theme of doing something good for someone will not only fill their bucket, but also fill your bucket. And she also created a journal that children can complete to keep track of their bucket filling encounters and how it made them feel when their bucket was filled or when they filled someone else's bucket, which would be an awesome resource to incorporate into the classroom. The Juicebox Bully by Bob Sorensen and Maria Dismondy is the next book I chose. Bob Sorensen is actually the founder of the Early Learning Foundation, which is dedicated to schools and families to provide opportunity for students to achieve early learning success. Sorensen is also the author of various children's books, as well as guides for parents in regards to early learning. And then Maria is the author of many other children's books, such as Pink Tiara Cookies for Three, Spaghetti and a Hot Dog Bun, The Jelly Donut Difference, The Potato Chip Champ, and The Fruit Salad Friend. I like that all these books kind of have a connection to food and are all very relatable to children. Dismondy is also a publisher and public speaker about the importance of children's mental health and challenges and issues they will face as they're growing up, which she talks about in each one of her books. The next book I chose is Chrysanthemum by Kevin Henkes, and I chose many of his books for my theme study, as a lot of his focus on challenges and topics that children go through as they're growing up. So a quote from him I found powerful was, "Books are often the first exposure to art that children have. Keeping that in mind urges me to make the very best books possible. I know how important the books from my childhood were and are to me. Without them, I might not be the writer and artist today." And then something else, another quote from him that stood out to me was, "Sometimes I'll fear from a parent about how a book of mine has insinuated itself into the heart of his or her child, or how a phrase from one of my books has become part of the family's daily jargon." And I love that. So when he hears these positive things from people reading his books, it continues to inspire him, and all of his books are super inspiring. With the mice-like characters who are going through troubling times as children. Another one of his books is Wemberly Worried by Kevin Henkes. And he has created 9 different mice characters, all in which encounter childhood challenges that they overcome. In an interview, he was asked, if you had to sum up in one word the characteristics you most admire in each of your mice, what would they be? For Chester, Chrysanthemum, Lily, Owen, Sheila Ray, Wendell, Sophie, and Wemberly. And he chose Chester is reliable, Chrysanthemum is sensitive, Lily is exuberant, Owen is centered, Sheila Ray is brave, of course, from Sheila Ray the Brave, Wendell is clever, Sophie is tenacious, and Wemberly is thoughtful. And I thought this was powerful because he had to kind of analyze each of his characters and think about one main theme that it is demonstrating to children. And then another question he was asked through his interview: do you have any recommendations for ways classroom teachers or parents can help children grow as readers, writers, and artists? And he said, exposure is everything. Read aloud as often as possible. If your child likes to write or draw, make sure that he or she always has paper available. Encourage children to experiment when it comes to art, and remind them to have fun and not be concerned with creating a masterpiece. And also, this last sentence is super powerful. If as adults we value art and books, our children will too. I think as a classroom teacher, promoting art and reading and writing is, of course, so important. And if our students see we're loving it, hopefully they will gain a passion for it as well. The next book is Sheila Ray the Brave, again by Kevin. He wrote and illustrated each of his books. He is inspired by illustrators such as Crockett Johnson and Garth Williams. Each of his books can be used within the classroom as a way for students to be exposed to challenges and ways to overcome them. So they're very relatable to elementary age students. And there is this mice-like consistency through his characters in all of his signature books, which this consistency is appealing to children and they grow to love these characters. Next is We're All Wonders by R.J. Palacio, and it's a children's spin-off version of the popular book and movie Wonder, which is also by Palacio, which many of us know has a very inspiring message about kindness and anti-bullying. And her Wonder books have inspired the Choose Kind movement, which should be implemented into every school, I believe. Other books by Palacio include 365 Days of Wonder, Mr. Brown's Books of Precepts, Augie and Me, Shing-a-Ling, and the Julian chapter, Pluto. And she invented the children's Bobo Glove. Next is Wilma Jean, The Worry Machine by Julia Cook. Julia Cook is nationally known as a parenting expert and award-winning children's book author. Cook is a former teacher and school counselor. She writes books for children that lets them laugh while learning to solve their own problems, use better behavior, and develop healthy relationships with the people around them. A very powerful quote from Julia Cook is, in order to teach children, you must enter their view of the world, which as educators, I think this is something we should always keep in mind. Inspiration from her books comes from listening to children. And then I chose the book Can't You Sleep, Little Bear by Martin Waddell and Barbara Firth. Martin Waddell is an Irish author. He is best known for his Little Bear series. All of his books are illustrated by Barbara Firth. And these children books are wonderful bedtime stories for parents and children to share, but also an excellent resource for educators to use in the classroom, as many of the problems that Little Bear encounters, children may struggle with as well. Other books written by Martin Waddell include Let's Go Home, Little Bear, You and Me, Little Bear, and Well Done, Little Bear. Again, through this consistent character, children can grow to love these books through Little Bear. Finally, I chose The Invisible Boy by Trudy Ludwig. Trudy Ludwig both writes her children's books on and travels the country discussing teasing, bullying, and mutual respect. She is the award-winning author of 10 of her books. Trudy Ludwig is an active member of the Anti-Bullying Association and has collaborated with leading experts from there. Other children's books she has written based on the same topic is My Secret Bully, Better Than You, Gifts from the Enemy, Just Kidding, Trouble Talk, and Too Sorry, and all of these books talk about the importance of anti-bullying and kindness. So how are these texts connected? Each of these texts relate to bullying, anxiety, worry, and fear, and how they interlock. Each of these books takes on the challenges through the lens of a child. All of these authors carefully articulated a story that will leave an impact on the children. And these books make perfect bedtime stories, read-alouds in the classroom, small group reading assignments, or independent reading books to send a message to the students about anti-bullying, overcoming fears, getting rid of worries. And then questions to discuss with students that pertain to these books, maybe how can I stand up for myself? How can I stand up for others? How can I spread kindness? What can I do about my worries? And how can I overcome my fears? Here are some websites and resources that are helpful for preventing bullying, preventing worries in children, and overcoming fears. And then finally, how to incorporate these strategies into the classroom. It is crucial, of course, to incorporate non-bullying strategies in the classroom. This can be done so by having the bucket filling technique. This will promote students of any age to treat their peers with kindness and understand that when you treat others with kindness, your bucket is also being filled. Keeping all of these books relevant and consistent throughout the year is important, whether they're done so through read-alouds, activities that go along with them. Just making sure it's consistent and not just the beginning of the year anti-bullying or kindness or anti-fear, anti-worries classroom, but keeping that theme up throughout the entire year. A fear jar or worry jar would be a great way for children to overcome their fears or worries, as they could write down their worries, put them into this jar, and kind of get them out into the world and realize they can overcome them. And then talking about problems in small groups, talking about what maybe children will realize they're not alone and other children do have similar fears, discussing anti-bullying strategies, discussing what to do if you're seeing a friend being bullied, and just keeping it a topic that's openly talked about in the classroom so children feel comfortable and understand they're not alone. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to watching all of yours.